On this, testing a keyword snooze option to help users block certain words for the same length of time.
The GOP-led House is rejecting an immigration bill that addressed long-term protections for young immigrants brought to the U.S. illegally as children.
Fire crews in California are making headway against a wildfire north of San Francisco.
Federal prosecutors have filed hate crime charges against the driver of a car that fatally struck a protester in Charlottesville, Virginia last year.
At the World Cup, the defending champs are out. Germany losing in a big upset to Korea, which also got knocked out.
Justices voted 5-4 to reverse a 41-year-old ruling that had allowed states to require public workers to pay some dues to unions that represent them in collective bargaining.
The Dow was down 165 points.
6:09 is the time here on this Thursday morning. Good morning. It is June 28th, 2018, and you're listening to Mike and Bonnie in the morning. Good morning, Bonnie.
And good morning to you, Mike. And we say good morning, Treasure Coast. Thank you for waking up on this Thursday.
Yeah, and Bonnie, thanks for you and for Gary for coming out last night. We had some tasty trivia going on over at the Tipsy Parrot. We were doing I Love the 80s night, and you two came out and did very well. Didn't place, but you were only a point and a half out of third place.
I guess so. I guess we did okay. We were kind of sort of in the middle of the pack there, going all the way.
No, you were fourth place, solid fourth place. There is a very clear drop after you guys.
At least we kept up a consistency about it.
You did.
But I liked that big wager we had to do at the end. That made everybody kind of sweat. I think you have that trivia night well organized, like a well organized machine. You know, the night went by like it went by really, really fast because it was so much fun. But I liked how you put it in different categories and when we had to wager our bet at the end. Only I know when you were coming around, it's like when you asked the question, that final question, I knew the answer, but I couldn't think of her name. And I think
that's usually how it goes.
And you were coming around within seconds of you coming to our place. I had just written it down and was able to put it up. Oh, there it is. I found it.
Yeah, we do for our trivia, we do 5 rounds of just regular questions. And then at the very end, it's a bonus question where you get to bid. It's a lot like Final Jeopardy. In fact, a lot of it's kind of framed after Jeopardy. It's the most successful TV game show of all time, I believe. So why not, why not frame bar trivia after it? And so we ask one question, we give you the category, and then you have to bid up to whatever points you have. And if you get it right, you're going to get those points. But if you get it wrong, you're going to lose those points. And a lot of times people go all in and they get the last question wrong. And so they end the night with 0 points. But the thing I hear the most is go big or go home, baby. Go big or go home.
You were probably hearing that out of Gary. I know Gary was telling me that we're going to wager it all.
Yeah, he was all ready to go all in. He wasn't having any nonsense of half points or any of that stuff. And the final question, I'm creeped out by that situation. So the final question, it was all about the 80s last night. And the final question I asked was, who appeared on the cover of Vogue magazine at the age of just 14? And she also appeared in Calvin Klein commercials saying, what gets between me and my Calvin? Nothing. At 14 years old, she's doing that on TV and in magazines. That's creepy, isn't it?
You know what? That's funny you say that because that started a conversation about it last night between Gary and I. And he was actually telling me some history about her that I had not known. And I had not known she kind of like went through such a rough time as a young aspiring actress, model.
In that 14, 15, 16-year time frame?
Yeah.
Or even younger?
Yeah, he told me some things that were rather eerie, and looking at her today, I see.
It was Brooke Shields, by the way. I don't think we said that.
And I just see her today as, a bright, beautiful lady who's really come along, after what the things I found out that she possibly went through when she was really young.
She was in the Blue Lagoon as a young teenager. That was a highly sexualized movie.
And you know what? Is it true that in the Blue Lagoon, now I didn't watch the whole thing, and you would think that I would have, being the age that I was, I'm right in that genre. I'm right in that age. I never sat down to watch it in full.
Mm-hmm.
But is it true that the boy Chris Atkins, the boy with Atkins, I think with the curly blonde hair,
Okay.
the boy in the movie, I always thought they were just two kids that landed up on that island together, not related. Is it true that they were brother and sister in that movie?
In the movie?
Yeah.
Well, I
I
don't remember watching that movie with the sound on. No, I don't remember watching that movie, or I don't remember anything about the movie outside of kind of the basics of what it is.
yeah.
I don't know.
I
don't
have
know
to
if that's
look it
true or
up.
not.
I always just thought
I hope not.
it was, and then I thought
I hope not.
I thought they became boyfriend and girlfriend or some sort of thing from maturing together and going through not menopause,
Ew.
going through the maturity, of what youths go through.
They were cousins.
They were cousins.
Yes.
Oh, that's still kind of giving me the creeps, kind of in a creepy way right now.
Yeah.
But I guess she had been in a film too before that. I don't think
That wasn't her first movie.
that was no, I don't think it was. There was another movie that he went into a little bit of detail, and which I don't want to repeat. That just kind of made me go, "Wow, ooh, this would not go well in this day and age, right here."
Yeah. And then I was talking about it with my wife after the trivia last night, and I can't think of anything that Brooke Shields is doing right now. I mean, she had a lot of success, obviously. She was a very huge name through the 80s and 90s. She had the Suddenly Susan TV show, but I can't think of anything she's done really since then.
Well, I saw her in an episode of 3.5 Men where she was dating Charlie, and
But that was more of a one-off, right?
yeah, a one-off. And she had a little bit of a reoccurring role in The Middle, where I had to look up the show The Middle to see if that was really Brooke, because she played this really, I guess, hardcore kind of redneck kind of lady that was the neighbor to the Hex. And she had these little boys that were always kind of getting into trouble. And when Mr. or Mrs. Heck would come over, she would always answer the door and her hair would be disheveled. It looked like she'd been drinking all day. The top would be very low cut. I had to look it up. Is that Brooke Shields? So, yeah, she did have a little bit of a reoccurring role, too, in The Middle.
Yeah, I'm kind of flipping through her IMDb here, and the only time I'm seeing her in movies, a lot of the time she's playing herself. You know, like she was in The Other Guys with Will Ferrell and Marky Mark, and she's herself in that movie. And I'm just kind of flipping through, and it's either 1 or 2 episodes with various TV shows, or she's playing herself.
When you asked the question last night, I wonder how many people were thinking when you said 80s and Vogue. I right away was thinking Madonna.
That's what my wife said.
Yeah.
Because I asked her the question, and I said, "What do you think? What do you think who it would be?" And her first guess right away was Madonna.
But what gave it away was when you got to the jeans and the Calvin Klein and nothing comes between me and my jeans. In fact, I remember the commercial quite well when I was growing up, and she did look great in the Calvin Klein jeans that she was wearing on that TV commercial. I know many people from that era will remember that one well.
Mm-hmm.
Just a beautiful lady, and she's come along.
Sure. So thanks for coming out last night. Hope everybody that was there had a good time. There was a bunch of stuff that went down yesterday. The big story, of course, is Justice Kennedy retiring, and he's considered to be a center-right judge. He's been the swing vote for many of the key decisions that the Supreme Court has ruled on over the past decades, it seems like. And now with Trump and the Republicans in Congress, you expect that he's going to be replaced not with a centrist, but with somebody who's more on the extreme side, like somebody ideologically similar to Neil Gorsuch, who a lot of the experts at the time said that he was akin to the Antonin Scalia, maybe even further right than Antonin Scalia was. And that's the one thing that bothers me a little bit about all this is I don't like moving to extremes. I like moving to the center wherever possible. And the way the system is set up is you obviously need consent from the Senate. And the Senate is as closely split as you could get. Well, almost as closely split as you can get. It's 51 Republicans, 49 Democrats. I guess you could go 50-50 and be exactly evenly split. But it's almost as close as you could get. But instead of getting a centrist in there, which you would expect to be the case, it's going to be somebody more on the extreme side of things. I think there's a danger in extremes on either side. Doesn't matter whether you're talking the left or the right. I don't like going in that direction. I always would prefer it to be something more towards the center.
I think this one that is leaving, I'm pretty sure he's been around since Ronald Reagan.
I believe you are correct.
Who appointed him. And it seems like this one has just kind of swung both ways with different decisions and even surprising maybe one party and upsetting a party when, he would always kind of like swing and you never knew for sure, which side of the fence he was going to vote on. Maybe because he always wanted to just vote for the right thing and not go with party. I mean, that's a possibility.
Imagine that, right?
Yeah.
Imagine that.
I mean, when you vote for people, you're hoping, that that's the way it should be. I just don't like voting for party. I kind of like to go with what I feel the party is talking about and the decisions that are right. But it's going to be interesting to see who is going to be the new Supreme Court justice. I guess it's going to be
a battle. That's
wild
for sure.
Ride.
It's going to be interesting. The Democrats are going to be really pushing the Democratic politicians. The base is going to be really pushing them to gum up the works and fight tooth and nail to prevent another Neil Gorsuch type from being put onto the court. And so we'll see how that plays out over the next couple of months. And, we're, like I said, I would rather see things move towards the middle. You look at what happened with when Antonin Scalia died, and I think it's fair to say that we should have had another centrist put on the court. At that time, you had a Democratic president, you had a Republican-controlled Senate that was a narrow Democratic-controlled Senate, a narrow Republican-controlled Senate. The way the system was designed, the way everything was set up, was that you would have gotten a centrist put on the court in that point. You would have had a Democrat nominating and Republicans voting largely for approval on that. The only way that works is if you put somebody on the court that is a centrist. Obviously, that's not how that played out. Mitch McConnell said, no, we're going to let the American people decide on this. And he put the brakes on it for an entire year. And the rest, of course, is history on that. And here we go. Not the same exact scenario, but a similar scenario. We have a high-profile retirement in an election year. We're actually closer to the election now than we were 2 years ago. Obviously, the Republicans are not going to wait for the election. They're going to get that stuff done before the election in the fall. Mitch McConnell's already said as much. He's like, why would I wait? That is ridiculous that I would wait. Who would wait? It's our responsibility by the Constitution, and we are going to sit and do it because Mitch McConnell is one of the most bold-faced hypocrites in American history. But that's neither here nor there. I do believe that they shouldn't have to wait. I think it was a disaster that they did wait the last time. And I'd rather return to normalcy than to see that precedent be set moving forward. I don't think that's a good precedent to set. So I do think that the Democratic base is going to lose their minds over this, and it is going to be an interesting couple of months.
It sure is. But I'm just still loathing in the fact that I didn't know that Princess Di was the Princess of Wales.
Another trivia question from last night. Yes. What was the official title of Princess Diana?
You know what? First I put down, and I talk about British royalty like I know it. And here's Gary telling me she was the Princess of Wales. Princess of Wales.
Would you put down Cambridge?
First I put down Windsor.
Windsor, I think, is the Queen.
Thinking of Windsor
and the King.
And then I said no. And I'm thinking maybe what she might have been prior to that. I thought she lived in Canterbury or something that I read before. So I put Princess of Canterbury.
Mm-hmm.
And Gary's like, Wales. Hello.
Yep. Princess of Wales, the people's princess. 6:23 is the time here this morning. We've got Treasure Coast News coming up next. Someone wants to warn people in Stewart about the dangers of swimming in the St. Lucie River with blue-green algae floating around. So they posted signs near the Riverwalk that read, "Danger, Lake-O discharges, swim at your own risk." The only problem is that it is illegal to post your own signs on public property, and the city of Stewart has taken them down, even though they don't have any official signs posted warning people about the algae. WPTV's Amy Lippman reports.
This morning, we found bright green algae here at Shepherd Park in Stewart. You can see some of that in this water bottle right here, and it is also still visible along the shoreline there. But what you will not find around Shepherd Park are any official signs saying not to swim in the water right now. But the city tells me something like that is coming.
We're all tired.
Fresh off the plane from a trip to Washington, D.C.
I went with my daughter and a bunch of the river kids.
Kenny Hinkle.
I love my county.
Isn't stopping.
We need to assume that the water is toxic.
He says he wasn't the activist behind these homemade warning signs, but he's applauding whoever is.
We're calling it the Toxic Avenger right now. We don't know who it is, but I think it's great that somebody's actually taken the initiative to put signs out there to save people's lives.
Because algae is out there in the St. Lucie River right now. We found this green water this morning at Shepherd Park with no official warning signs nearby.
That citizens are actually taking it upon themselves to put these signs out there.
The city of Stewart has been working with the health department on coming up with official signs. About a dozen of them should be up by the end of the week.
With algae, it does move around. And until it got to the height that it did 2 years ago, where almost the entire river was unsafe to go in, you really want to pay attention to that because we want people to be able to still enjoy the water and go in it. But we also want to be accurate and let them know when it is actually unsafe in a particular area.
Signs or no signs, Hinkle says he's not going in.
It's a known toxin. It's known to cause liver disease, cancer clusters, and neurological disorders as well.
I'm told the city of Stewart put up its own signs during the algae crisis 2 years ago, but they really want their messaging to be in sync with the health department. So it's taken some time to get some approval from the health department on exactly what to post. Amy Lippman, WPTV, News Channel 5.
A different battle over water has been playing out for years. Georgia has been using so much of the water that used to flow into the Apalachicola Bay that the famed oyster industry has been decimated. And Florida Agriculture Commissioner Adam Putnam says it has to be saved.
We're fighting at every front, fighting on a scientific level, fighting on a litigation level in terms of taking it all the way to the U.S. Supreme Court, working with the oystermen themselves to try to design all kinds of ways for us to continue to bring that bay back.
The U.S. Supreme Court sided with Florida in the latest legal challenge, sending the case back to a special master who had ruled in favor of Georgia. But there's still no end in sight to a legal battle that's been going on for decades. Florida has issued its annual school report card, though with little fanfare. The news is good overall. The report card showed that public schools scored better grades this year than the year before. More schools scored an A or a B, and fewer schools scored an F, according to state officials. 58% of the schools counted as either A's or B's, while only 7% scored an F. The school report card is based on how well students do overall on standardized tests in reading, math, social studies, and science. More than 3,000 schools in Florida were graded this year. Now, locally, schools on the Treasure Coast improved their grades overall. There were no F schools, only 3 D schools. Martin County was once again an A-rated district, ranking 15th in the state. St. Lucie County is a B-rated district. They ranked 22nd in the state. That's a look at our Treasure Coast news. It's 6:28.
On the highways right now, we're not seeing any accidents. So far, so good on this Thursday morning if you're traveling throughout the Treasure Coast. And if you see an accident, give us a call. We're at 220-WSTU.
Treasure Coast weather.
75 in Stewart and WPTV weather brought to you by Code Red Roofers. Roofers who respond. Code Red Roofers cares, calls you back, shows up, and finishes on time. Call 287-2829. Let's get more WPTV.
Taking a look at sports, Marlins versus Diamondbacks, Game 3 in the series last night. Robbie Ray pitched 6 scoreless innings in his first game in nearly 2 months, helping the Diamondbacks beat the Marlins 2-1. The Marlins scored their only run in the bottom of the 9th inning, but the rally ultimately fell short. They will have a 4th game in the series, which is coming up this afternoon. First pitch is scheduled for 12:10. The Marlins will stay in Miami as the Mets come to town tomorrow for a weekend series. And then the Marlins will have the Rays coming to town for a 3-game series that will wrap up on July 4th. Elsewhere in baseball, speaking about the Rays, they were off yesterday. They will stay at home as the Houston Astros come to town for a weekend series starting today. Elsewhere in Major League Baseball, the Phillies shut out the Yanks 3-0. The Indians topped the Cardinals 5-1, and the Dodgers scored a touchdown on the Cubbies, beating them 7-5. World Cup action, huge upset, maybe one of the biggest upsets of the tournament so far. South Korea shut out Germany 2-0. Germany is eliminated from match play. They're the defending World Cup champions, and they did not make it into the round of 16. Other final scores from yesterday: Sweden blanked Mexico 3-0. Switzerland and Costa Rica played to a 2-2 draw in Group E play, while Brazil shut out Serbia 2-0. Coming up today, we've got the final group matchup games. Group H and Group G will be coming to a close. Senegal takes on Colombia at 10 o'clock today, as does Japan and Poland to round out Group H. Group G, it's England and Belgium at 2. Panama and Tunisia also playing at 2 o'clock today. The round of 16 starts on Saturday. That's a look at sports here on WSTU.
Bought a new pair of sneakers the other day. I think I got a good price. I put $50 down, and I'm paying $5 a month for 60 months. I need to make some money. I've been reading these books now, how the millionaires write books, and they all say the same thing. They say making that first million is the toughest. Yeah, I'm finding that to be the case. I hope the second million isn't this tough. In fact, I'm having a little trouble with the 1,000 barrier. The money I do have is all tied up in Pokemon cards. Yeah, I had to sell some Beanie Babies to get the Pokemon cards, but I wanted to diversify my portfolio.
Urban Outfitters and Anthropologie are rolling out a new payment program which allows online shoppers to pay in installments later rather than in full, called Afterpay. Not to be confused with the program they have at Taco Bell, where you always pay for it later. Mitt Romney won last night's Utah Republican Senate primary. Romney celebrated by going to a victory party and turning the music down.
Big news out of Washington. Supreme Court Justice Anthony Kennedy announced he's retiring, which means President Trump will pick his replacement. When asked which judge he'll choose, Trump said, either Adam Levine or Blake Shelton. They're both a little edgy for different reasons.
6:40 here on this Thursday morning, June 28th. Let's take a trip back throughout this day in history with Bonnie.
We're going to go to 1914 when Austrian Archduke Franz Ferdinand and his wife Sophia
Say that again?
Franz Ferdinand
Okay.
Ferdinand and his wife Sophia, they were assassinated in Sarajevo. This ignited World War I.
Yeah, that if you ever get an opportunity to either read an article or listen to a podcast or watch this documentary on that day and how the events unfolded, make sure to take advantage because it is a wild story and just a bumbling series of errors that led to that car being where it was and the assassin where he was. I mean, they had a big, extravagant plot, and there were bombs involved, and there was a ton of conspirators, and it all went wrong. And they got the Archduke out of there, and they were going to his bodyguards or his security was telling him, "We got to get you off the streets. Got to get you off the streets." And he's like, I think he wanted to go to the hospital where some of the people who were seriously injured in the previous attempt on his life, where they were being treated. He wanted to go there and see them. And the conspirators had broken up. They had dispersed after their failed attempt, and they had a plan to meet, I think, at a sandwich shop. And so, did you name the actual guy who shot him?
No, I did not get that name.
If that guy is walking out of the sandwich shop where he's supposed to meet with his various co-conspirators, and he looks up, and sitting in an open car, stopped at a light right in front of him, is the Archduke that he's been trying to kill all along. And he just walked up and shot him.
Yeah, and this precipitated Austria's declaration of war over Serbia. And so that's what started World War I in 1914.
Then it's just the domino effect. There's a fantastic, I don't know how many people here listen to podcasts, but if you are at all technologically adept, if you've got a smartphone, find a podcast app and then search for Hardcore History and look for Hardcore History is a fantastic podcast, and he's got an entire series on the history of World War I. It's called Blueprint for Armageddon.
Oh boy.
Look for it if you can. I don't know if it's still free or not. You might have to pay for it. Even if you have to pay for it, if you're interested at all in the topic, it is fantastic. It's like a 6-part thing, and each part is probably 6 hours long.
Wow.
But it is epic. It is amazing.
It holds you, right?
It's got some fantastic tidbits in it, things that I just had no clue about. And the host of that show does a fantastic job. I cannot recommend it enough. It's Hardcore History. Should be available for free, but some of the episodes you do have to pay for. And Blueprint for Armageddon is about World War I, and it is epic.
Perfect. And 99 years ago, in 1919, the Treaty of Versailles was signed in France, officially ending World War I. So that war went on from 14 to 19, 5 years.
They had to have picked that day on purpose, right? I mean, to do the Treaty of Versailles that ended World War I.
To sign it, you would think.
It was World War I, right? Not World War II?
Yep, that would have been one, too.
You'd think that they had to have planned that one on purpose and say, okay, we're going to do this on the same exact date, on the anniversary of the Archduke being assassinated.
5 years, though, I thought that war went on much longer.
I don't think it could have.
5 years.
It was just meat grinders. I mean, just the technology that they had built up and the tactics didn't stand a chance. There were no tactics to go against what they had. The front lines, the rows, the miles of trenches, and you've got barbed wire and machine guns. I mean, you didn't have the planes necessarily. I mean, you did by the end of the war, but you didn't have the planes and the tanks that we had even in World War II that helped you break through that. So it was just a stalemate. It was a meat grinder.
Had to be.
Throw bodies at it until something changes.
Brutal. Very brutal. 39 years ago in 1979, the classic Bill Murray comedy Meatballs was released.
That one doesn't really get talked about a lot anymore. A lot of his older comedies, of course, do. Caddyshack is still held up there. Ghostbusters, Groundhog Day, Stripes is still held up there. But Meatballs, you don't hear talked about too much. Is it kind of in the same vein as the Porkies
As the
and the
Porkies,
Revenge of the Nerds
kind
and
of
things
the-
like that.
Yeah, like the summer camp movies, especially like a summer camp movie that was made 39 years ago. You had to be funny at the time, but I'm almost bet if you watch it now, it's probably not going to quite hold out right for you.
A lot of those comedies, and I don't remember much about Meatballs specifically. I'm thinking more of Revenge of the Nerds here, but a lot of those comedies, there's elements of it that you look at now and go, oh man, that's not funny. That's just downright creepy and or
Yeah.
illegal. Like there's a scene in Revenge of the Nerds, and I remember watching it when I was a kid and being like, yeah,
Oh, yeah.
this is great. And it's where the main nerd tricks the sorority girl to have sex with him. And you're like, yeah, go nerd guy. And then nowadays you're like, wait a minute, that's rape. That's not appropriate
And
for a
it-
comedy. What's going on here?
And Nerds was so 80s when Miami Vice was the main cool, and Nerds 2, I think, took down place in Miami. So the 80s setting of it all, and along with the 80s music and the feel. But I'm sure if you watched it today, it's not going to hold out.
No, but I think that scene in particular, though, is why Nerds isn't talked about as much anymore.
And
And
I-
it was for a
yeah.
long time.
Little Darlings is another one I would like to check out to see if it holds out. That was another camp movie
I don't remember that one.
with a very endearing with Tatum O'Neal and Christy McNichol. Matt Dillon played in that one.
Matt Dillon.
Yeah.
Wow.
Little Darlings, and they were all at summer camp doing what kids do and trying to get away with things.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see, 32 years ago in 1986, Wham made their farewell concert appearance at London's Wembley Stadium.
I don't.
Why are you laughing about Wham?
Because every time I think of Wham, I laugh. There's a scene from a movie, and I think it's American Psycho, which is a very odd movie for this to be from. But there's a line, this is the album where they earned that exclamation point. Because it's Wham with an
Oh,
exclamation
right.
point.
Okay, got it. It's funny. I don't remember seeing that. Of course, I wasn't the biggest Wham fan in the world, but yeah, maybe they earned that explanation point by then, especially
You weren't
when.
part of the Wham fan fam?
Okay,
The Wham fan fan? I can't even say it.
Wham.
You weren't part of it?
No, I
Move on. Never mind. This is crashing and burning.
But you know what? Elton John made a guest appearance in that final show. He wore a clown suit to sing a song and then came back later to sing Candle in the Wind with George Michael. And I do enjoy Wham every year at Christmas time with their song and video this Christmas time.
All right. Very
So
good.
It's very nice. Let's see. 22 years ago in 1996, Kiss kicked off their reunion tour at Detroit's Tiger Stadium, and Alice in Chains had opened for them.
Who is this?
This is Kiss and
Oh, yeah.
Alice in Chains with the late Lynn Staley, who drug overdosed a few years ago. That was
Yeah.
like a few years ago already.
I know this is Kiss is one of those bands that you either love or you hate. I've been largely indifferent towards Kiss through all these years. There's some good songs.
Mhm.
Detroit Rock City. Don't they have a Saturday night song? They do have a Saturday night song. Something about rocking on Saturdays. That's a good song. That's about it.
Are you thinking about Elton John's Saturday Night's All Right for
No,
Fighting?
there's a Kiss song.
Okay. Detroit Rock City, I know. Ladies Room, Meet You in the Ladies Room, Beth. That song was written by Ace Frehley, who seems to be like, I think he and Kiss had a fallout after several years, like over the song rights and all that stuff going on. But yeah, Alice in Chains, I guess, used to open for Kiss, and that's how Alice in Chains got their start.
All right.
And let's see, Elian Gonzalez returned to Cuba 7 months after landing in America on the state in 2000,
Yeah, that was a big deal back then.
18 years ago today. And 17 years ago in 2001, Eminem was sentenced to 1 year probation and community service on 2 gun-related charges. In handing out her sentence, the judge told him, quote, "Now is the time for you to please stand up."
Oh, good job, Judge.
So it doesn't sound like he was giving the judge very much respect that day in that courtroom.
Sometimes
so good
the
for her.
judges want to crack a joke, and it's weird. You're in a courtroom, everybody's taking it seriously. Most people are they're not used to that situation. They're a little bit nervous for being in the courtroom, and then the judge is up there cracking dad jokes.
You know what I want to see? I want to see some of these celebrities go in front of Judge Judy. Wouldn't they be?
I don't
Wouldn't it
want
be
to see
fun?
that.
It would be fun.
I don't
if-
want to see Judge Judy in much of anything.
If they had Judge Judy and they make it not just everyday ordinary people, if they have celebrity cases go in front of her, man, I would be watching. Judge Judy, you don't get away with anything with her. She will rip you apart.
No, she's no nonsense.
She is. That's why she's worth she is like the highest paid person on television right now. Some 41 million a year she's making.
She's making more than Ellen?
Yeah, highest paid.
Wow.
She's been that for a while. And we had Mike Tyson biting off the ear of Evander Holyfield.
He's been in this day in history a lot lately.
21 years ago, Mike Tyson did that in 1997. He bit off Evander's ear twice during that fight, and he was immediately disqualified for the second bite, and his boxing license was revoked.
Yeah.
So biting off somebody's ear is, I suppose, in boxing, it's as worse as hitting or kicking below the belt.
I would assume so.
So they're going to take your license away.
He bit the tip of his ear off.
I wouldn't want to go into a fight and have any. I wouldn't mind having a black eye, but I don't know if I would want to come out of a fight with missing pieces.
No.
And such. My ear's gone missing.
Yeah, no, thank you.
In our birthdays, Mel Brooks is 92 today.
Oh, wow. Happy birthday, Mel Brooks.
And Kelly Pickler is turning 32. She
Okay.
from American Idol, and she has her own show on CMT.
From one of the most successful producers, comedians, comedy guys of Hollywood of all time to Kelly Pickler.
Yeah, Mel Brooks, he was even married to Anne Bancroft at one time. I did not know that. Anne Bancroft played Mrs. Robinson, and they were married for like several years. Elon Musk, excuse me, is 47 today. I thought he was older, like an old man.
He is either a genius who's going to save the world, or he is a Bond villain. I don't know which one he is yet.
The way we hear about him, I know he's worth like he's probably one of the top 10 richest people in the world.
He's trying to revolutionize cars. He's trying to revolutionize space. Trying to revolutionize power grids, internet. He's trying to do it all.
John Cusack is 52.
Okay.
I don't know
Let's
what
get one
John.
more.
I don't know what he's doing lately. John Elway is 58.
All right.
Amazing quarterback from the
Yeah.
Denver Broncos. I used to have such a huge crush on Mr. Elway.
He's bow-legged.
And like he has the big dimple too, like a John Travolta. That big dimple going in his chin. That's what grabs you. And birthdays and back in the day for June 28.
All right, 6:53 is the time. We've got Treasure Coast News coming up next. Taking a look at our Treasure Coast News here this morning, a man seen riding his bike, holding a fishing pole, and wearing flip-flops is wanted by the Martin County Sheriff's Office for attempting to steal an outboard motor from a boat at the Treasure Coast Rowing Club in Palm City early Sunday morning. On surveillance video, you see the man ride up and climb through a small opening on the side of the fence and make his way into the boatyard. Once inside, he takes a Yamaha motor worth about $2,000 off the boat. The suspect loosens the 150-pound motor from the boat, but realizes that he has a problem. He can't get it over a 15-foot fence. So he puts the motor down and calls it a night. Officials believe the suspect is local to the Martin County area because he was on his bike Anyone with information is asked to call the sheriff's office. And a Port St. Lucie woman has been reunited with her mother after 80 years. Joanne Lowenstern was adopted as a baby and lived her entire life never knowing her biological mother until this week. Joanne was told at 16 years old that she was adopted and that her mother had died 2 days after she gave birth. But even if she was dead, Joanne wanted to learn more about her mother. So her daughter-in-law decided to take a chance and created an Ancestry.com account about a year ago. That led to the discovery that Joanne's mother was not only alive, but living right down the road in Boca Raton. Joanne and her 100-year-old mother, Lillian Simonieri, finally reunited. One mystery remains, however. Why was Joanne told that her mother had died? Well, Lillian's memories of 1938 are fading, but she says that she lost a daughter that year who died. Joanne and Lillian say they plan to make the most out of the remaining time that they have together. That's a look at our Treasure Coast news at 6:56.
on the highways throughout Martin County and St. Lucie County, everything is looking clear. We're not seeing any accidents to report. If you see an accident, let us know about it. We're at 220-9788, 220-WSTU.
Treasure Coast weather.
Jensen Beach is 75, and it's 75 here in Stewart. Let's get more on the forecast with Glenn Glazier at WPTV.
Supreme Court Justice Anthony Kennedy is stepping down.
He came to the White House. We had a wonderful discussion.
DOJ is greenlighting Disney's $71 billion plan to take over much of 21st Century Fox.
Facebook testing a feature to help film and television buffs avoid spoilers.
Last year, Facebook debuted a snooze option, allowing folks to mute posts from a specific friend for 30 days. Reps expanding on this, testing a keyword snooze option to help users block certain words for the same length of time.
The GOP-led House is rejecting an immigration bill that addressed long-term protections for young immigrants brought to the U.S. illegally as children.
Fire crews in California are making headway against a wildfire north of San Francisco.
Federal prosecutors have filed hate crime charges against the driver of a car that fatally struck a protester in Charlottesville, Virginia last year.
At the World Cup, the defending champs are out. Germany losing in a big upset to Korea, which also got knocked out.
Justices voted 5-4 to reverse a 41-year-old ruling that had allowed states to require public workers to pay some dues to unions that represent them in collective bargaining.
The Dow was down 165 points.
7:09 is the time here on this Thursday morning, and got a lot of stuff going on. But Bonnie, you were telling me off air a little bit about a TV show you were watching.
Yeah, I was watching a ID show last night, and it really caught our eye because it's history of what happened right here in like 1972 and 1973, Mike.
Where
in
here?
The Hutchinson Island area.
Oh, really?
And the Jensen Beach area included, and it went out to parts of Port St. Lucie, like in that Ocamok area.
Okay.
Where they have what's called, legend has it, the Devil's Tree.
Oh, you know what? I've tried to find it. I know it's not that hard to find, but I went out there with the wife. We were out there actually for a birthday party for my niece, and I'm walking through, and everyone's like, oh, yeah, the Devil's Tree out here. Just go out there, go down this path, take a right at the fork. You can't miss it. Well, I missed it.
You couldn't find it, could
I couldn't
you?
find it.
I don't know if I would really want to find it with the history that's behind it. But what I found really fascinating was, okay, so like when I moved here in 2002, and I worked for another radio station, I was able to meet Sheriff Bob Crowder from here, from Martin County. Was fascinating because he had been on the scene of this crime back in 1972 already.
Sure.
So like when I moved here, he would have already been on the force some 30 years. So that sparked up right away a fascination with the story. But this guy, Schaefer, was a cop murderer who came out of Fort Lauderdale at first. And he had been in a precinct there where he was stopping girls along the road, and some form of harassment went on. So he would
stop them in like his official police capacity.
Yeah.
And then, man,
they took away his badge.
That's awful.
But they took away his badge, but lo and behold, he was able to then reland a job in Martin County. as a deputy. So he did drive around in a police car, and there were these girls visiting from Michigan who were walking along the side of the road in Jensen Beach. And what he always liked to do, he liked to act like a big brother or like a father. He would stop and pull on the side of the road and say, you know what could happen if you girls, get out here. You know you're in like perfect danger. He would like talk to them like an older brother. Then he would say, "Come with me, and I'll give you a ride.
Come with me if you want to live.
I'll give you a ride to the beach." Well, the first day he did that, but then he got these girls so wrapped up in him that they trusted him enough to say, "Well, if you're hanging out here, I'll come pick you girls up tomorrow and show you around Jensen Beach." So he picked up these two girls, took them out to what was really barren at the time. Like Hutchinson Island wasn't even developed. I can't even imagine what it would look like in 1972.
No pictures from the documentary?
Well, the documentary just showed basic, what would be out in the woods. And this is where he took them, as a woodsy area on Hutchinson Island, and left these two girls both in nooses and standing in positions to where if they would have lost a single ground of footing, that would be their demise. Well, one of the girls saved the other girl. She was somehow able to get herself out of it. Saved the other girl, got her out of the noose. These girls got away and they were able to go to authorities. And so he was arrested, but there was like a time period where he somehow got out and awaiting for a trial. And in that maybe period of 3 or 4 months span, he went out and committed a horrendous crime where 2 other girls got murdered.
And that's out at the Devil's Tree.
I believe that's where that would have been. Yeah.
Man. All right. So this was on the ID channel last night.
Yeah.
And what was the program? Do you remember?
I'm wondering if it was called Diabolical. It might have been called. Was it Diabolical, or they have several different shows on ID right now, but I'm sure if you look up ID and John Schaefer, or maybe ID with Devil's Tree.
Yeah, that would be interesting to see if we could find on demand and watch that.
And well, he did eventually get caught, and I know authorities went into his home, which I think was still up in Fort Lauderdale area. He had this really big home, and they basically went through his house and found just all of these artifacts of the girl's clothing. There were gold teeth. There was jewelry. He was just a monster, and he just saved all of this. And then he did go to prison.
Do. I don't understand that. They always keep something. Well, I mean, there's something that drives these people. Obviously, there's something wrong with them that makes them do these horrendous acts. And then that same instinct, or that same impulse and drive, for whatever reason, drives them to get a memento, to get a keepsake of the event.
Yeah.
Some twisted.
And they were thinking that what the girls did to him in Michigan too, by getting him, nailing him, they thought it just made him so angry, that he was going to go out and do this to 2 more girls and do that once more. And unfortunately, too, Florida at the time didn't have a death penalty. So he got sentenced to life in prison without parole. My heart goes out to the families. I don't know if they're still living here, but at the time
he's in prison for life without a chance of parole.
But what they did to these girls just still to them didn't feel like enough, and I can see that. But finally, in 1995, he was stabbed to death by another prisoner.
Mm.
So, but he had been, kind of not a bad-looking fellow at all. Kind of on the charismatic side, and he had even
a lot of them are.
He had even been married. He had been married doing these things.
A lot of these serial. I mean, I'm not saying he's necessarily a serial killer, but obviously he's done a bad thing for a long time. But a lot of these serial killers, serial rapists, which it sounds like he certainly was, they're not just the weirdos that send your radar off and you look at them and go, something's wrong with this guy. I got to get out of here. A lot of them are charming.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of them are, in many ways good looking, and you'd be surprised when you see him.
Well, we were talking about the other serial killer, the lawyer who got caught here in Florida too at the college. Bundy. Yeah, Bundy had been his name.
Okay.
And he was actually on the charming side. And I just remember the movie, he drove some sort of a bug. Was it a bug beetle that he drove? He drove around and he would lure these young ladies over to his car pretending he had a hurt leg and stuff. And so charming and, charming looking, and these ladies would fall for it. It's just chilling. I
Yeah.
wonder if we should get off serial killers.
Yeah.
But look up John Schaefer. A fascinating story right in our area in 1972.
Yeah, that definitely would be an interesting show to watch. If anything, you get to see some of the features and places that we're familiar with now. And a lot of us necessarily weren't living here. Some of us obviously were and might remember that case well. But for some others of us, maybe we just faintly have heard of the Devil's Tree in Port St. Lucie and that one park out there, or you've kind of vaguely know the events. But it'd be interesting to kind of have a better idea of what's going on with that. So cool. We'll have to look out for that thing on the ID channel.
I had been reading a weird thing too. Like if you go out there, I don't know if it's true or not, but they say like chainsaws won't work around the tree. Like
that's
like the tree can't.
That's a very specific haunting.
It can't be. The tree can't be cut down, and people walking through the trail will feel, like a chill in the air, kind of like a chilling feeling.
No, if I got a chill hiking here in the state of Florida, I'd be all over it. I'd be there all the time.
We'd have to turn on some water sprinklers for you on the trail.
Yeah. 7:17 is the time here this morning. Some other stories that we're looking at. Facebook is testing a new feature that they say will help you block out spoilers. So if you're like, oh man, it's going to be a couple of weeks before I can see the next, I'm going to go with the Avengers movie because we're actually going to see that this weekend for the third time. We're going to go. Yeah, we're taking my parents. So we saw the Avengers when it first came out, and then we went the following weekend to see it. So we've already seen it twice in theaters, Avengers Infinity War. And my mom and my stepfather really like the Marvel movies, but they had fallen behind. So we kind of made it a mission. We were like, you know what? We're going to get together every once in a while. We're going to watch some of these Marvel movies because we have them all. So we got them caught up. And I was like, you guys want to try and see Avengers Infinity War before it leaves the theater? So we're going to go do that on Saturday. Let's say that's the movie and you hadn't had a chance to see it yet, but you want to avoid any potential spoilers on your Facebook feed. You could actually now, in some instances, go in, and they're calling this new feature keyword snooze. And it's exactly what it sounds like. You're going to give it a couple of keywords like Avengers Infinity War or Avengers or Infinity War, and you're going to tell it to snooze, which is going to block those stories or posts containing those keywords for 30 days. And then if those 30 days come up and you still don't want to see them, you can re-snooze on them. So that's a great way to avoid having spoilers for TV shows. If you're Westworld, I'm not caught up on Westworld. I'm just going to block all the Westworld stories.
Yeah.
You could do that. If you're tired of politics, you could politics, you could do Trump, you could do whatever, Clinton, all those stuff. You could block those out of your feed. That would probably make Facebook a pretty nice place to be. And if you're a super evil person, you could block puppies or something on there. I don't know. But the only issue I have with this thing is you have to first go to a post that includes the keywords you want to snooze on. And then you can do snooze keywords in this post and then click on some of the stuff in there. So you might have to read a post that contains spoilers in order to block potential spoilers.
You're going to be doing a lot of work having to pre-read about it first, what you don't want to be reading about.
I should just be able to go in there and type in the keywords, right?
Yes.
And say click, and all those posts are gone.
And hit your snooze button
Right.
and not have to deal with it.
Right.
That would be practical. I mean, that would be something that everybody could completely use. I would be using the ones I think where I hate to see animal cruelty. So when people post the videos of the poor animals suffering or anything going on with that.
That's an interesting thing because I totally get that of wanting to block that post. But what keyword are you going to put in there that's going to block out? So you put in animal cruelty, right? But it's not going to automatically filter out posts that contain animal cruelty in it. It's going to block out the ones that have the words animal cruelty in it.
Okay.
So there's a lot of those types of posts that are going to slip through the cracks and something. So I don't even know how effective this is going to be.
Yeah, even like with your movies,
right?
And the X-Men, not Avengers: Infinity War is one movie. What about maybe the rest of the movies and TV shows on Netflix?
Yeah,
that
how
you don't
many
wanna
how many
find out about?
keywords do you have to put in there to fully block out the chance of spoilers?
It might be a full day of work for you.
It might be. It might be better just to turn Facebook off for a couple of days and then go see the movie.
That's right.
7:21 is the time here this morning. We've got Treasure Coast News coming up next. Someone wants to warn people in Stewart about the dangers of swimming in the St. Lucie River with blue-green algae floating around. So they posted signs near the Riverwalk that read, "Danger, Lako discharges, swim at your own risk." Well, the only problem is that it is illegal to post your own signs on public property, and the city of Stewart has taken them down, even though they don't have any official signs posted warning people about the algae. WPTV's Amy Lippman reports.
This morning, we found bright green algae here at Shepherd Park in Stewart. You can see some of that in this water bottle right here, and it is also still visible along the shoreline there. But what you will not find around Shepherd Park are any official signs saying not to swim in the water right now. But the city tells me something like that is coming.
We're all tired.
Fresh off the plane from a trip to Washington, D.C.
I went with my daughter and a bunch of the river kids.
Kenny Hinkle.
I love my county.
Isn't stopping.
We need to assume that the water is toxic.
He says he wasn't the activist behind these homemade warning signs, but he's applauding whoever is.
We're calling it the Toxic Avenger right now. We don't know who it is, but I think it's great that somebody's actually taken the initiative to put signs out there to save people's lives.
Because algae is out there in the St. Lucie River right now. We found this green water this morning at Shepherd Park with no official warning signs nearby.
That citizens are actually taking it upon themselves to put these signs out there.
The city of Stewart has been working with the health department on coming up with official signs. About a dozen of them should be up by the end of the week.
With algae, it does move around. And until it got to the height that it did 2 years ago, where almost the entire river was unsafe to go in, you really want to pay attention to that because we want people to be able to still enjoy the water and go in it. But we also want to be accurate and let them know when it is actually unsafe in a particular area.
Signs or no signs, Hinkle says he's not going in.
It's a known toxin. It's known to cause liver disease, cancer clusters, and neurological disorders as well.
I'm told the city of Stewart put up its own signs during the algae crisis 2 years ago, but they really want their messaging to be in sync with the health department. So it's taken some time to get some approval from the health department on exactly what to post. Amy Lippman, WPTV, News Channel 5.
A different battle over water has been playing out for years now. Georgia has been using so much of the water that used to flow into the Apalachicola Bay that the famed oyster industry has been decimated. And Florida Agriculture Commissioner Adam Putnam says it has to be saved.
We're fighting at every front, fighting on a scientific level, fighting on a litigation level in terms of taking it all the way to the U.S. Supreme Court, working with the oystermen themselves to try to design all kinds of ways for us to continue to bring that bay back.
The U.S. Supreme Court sided with Florida in the latest legal challenge, sending the case back to a special master who had ruled in favor of Georgia. But there's still no end in sight to a legal battle that's been going on for decades. Florida has issued its annual school report card, though it came with little fanfare. The news is good overall, though. The report card showed that public schools scored better grades this year than the year before. More schools scored an A or a B, and fewer schools scored an F. according to state officials. 58% of the schools counted as either A's or B's, and only 7% scored an F. The school report card is based on how well students do overall on standardized tests in reading, math, social studies, and science. More than 3,000 schools in Florida were graded for this year. Now, locally, schools on the Treasure Coast improved their grades overall. There were no F schools, only 3 D schools. Martin County was an A-rated district, ranking 15th in the state. St. Lucie County, a B-rated district, ranked 22nd in the state. Well, the PBS show Nova focused on hurricanes last night, and more specifically, it focused on last year's trio of big storms, Harvey, Irma, and Maria. Show producer Liesl Clark says the 3 hurricanes all encountered warm water temperatures and no wind shear.
They all rapidly intensified, meaning that they gained wind strength very, very quickly. And that's a part of atmospheric science that scientists are looking very closely at, that the forecasters feel that they really need to improve on that particular aspect of hurricane predictions.
Last night's Nova show was titled Rise of the Superstorms. A jury late Wednesday found a Port St. Lucie man guilty of trying to kill another man outside a Port St. Lucie bar by setting him on fire. Ivan Rodriguez was found guilty as charged. The most serious charge, attempted first-degree murder with a weapon, carries a life sentence. Rodriguez had an encounter at Neely's Grog House in Port St. Lucie back in April of 2015. Rodriguez tossed a cup of gasoline on a man and then set him on fire. The man suffered serious burns and had to undergo a number of surgeries, spending a month in a Miami hospital. New car entertainment systems are too distracting for drivers. That's coming out of research from AAA's Foundation for Traffic Safety.
What we're seeing right now are touch screens, heads-up displays, gesture controls, and voice controls that are just, in many cases, too distracting.
The Foundation's Dr. David Strayer says they found smartphone-based apps like Apple CarPlay and Android Auto are actually safer than the car makers' built-in systems. Strayer says you can make systems safer by locking out navigation and texting functions while the car is in motion. That's a look at our Treasure Coast news here this morning. The time is 7:28.
Right now, we're not seeing any accidents, including Federal Highway, and throughout Martin County and St. Lucie County, it's clear in both directions on the major highways. So far, so good this morning. And let us know if you see an accident or a slowdown right here at 220-9788, 220-WSTU.
Treasure Coast weather.
In Port St. Lucie at 74. WPTV weather brought to us by Code Red Roofers. Roofers who respond. Code Red Roofers cares, calls you back, shows up, and finishes on time. Call 287-2829. Let's get more on our forecast now at WPTV.
2.
I'm Michelle Polino. Toni Collette will star in Netflix's upcoming series Unbelievable, based on a Pulitzer Prize-winning article from ProPublica titled An Unbelievable Story of Rape, which focused on the investigation that ensued after a teenage girl was charged with lying about being raped at knife point. And while we're at Netflix, be sure to check out Glow Season 2 and Star Wars The Last Jedi. Both start streaming this weekend.
4. Liberal Party.
While over at Amazon, Hugh Grant stars in A Very English Scandal, a BBC miniseries inspired by the 1979 political scandal and courtroom trial of British politician Jeremy Thorpe, who was accused of conspiring to murder his ex-lover Norman Scott. It debuts Friday, and Jeremy Irons will star in HBO's upcoming series, The Watchmen. The project is an adaptation of the DC graphic novel. That's Fox Tube on Fox News.
Fox on Tech.
It wasn't long ago we said this for the last time.
Goodbye.
Well, it seems AOL's famed instant messenger is making a comeback, sort of. It's called AIM Phoenix, but it's not being run by AOL. It's actually being run by Wildman Productions, a nonprofit development team, but it will look the same as the popular service from the 90s that connected us all instantly, which was then a new concept. But since it's no longer affiliated with AOL, you won't be able to log back into your old buddy lists or messages. In fact, you can pick a whole new name or the name you always wanted. AOL's Instant Messenger was shut down on December 15th of last year after 20 years of helping people interact online. But in the age of Facebook, Twitter, and text messages, it no longer seemed necessary. You could log on to the AIM Phoenix website, iwarg.ddns.net/AIM, to download the software and pick your username. Then find your friends and convince them to get back in to the AIM game. With Fox on Tech, I'm Brett Larson, Fox News.
Taking a look at sports here this morning. Lots of stuff going on yesterday in baseball. It was Game 3 between the Diamondbacks and the Marlins down in Miami. Arizona getting some great pitching from Robbie Ray, who pitched 6 scoreless innings. It was his first game in nearly 2 months as he helped the Diamondbacks beat the Marlins 2-1 yesterday. Game 4 in that series will be this afternoon. First pitch is just afternoon at 12:10, and then the Mets will be coming to town for a weekend series against the Marlins. The long homestand for Miami will continue into next week as the Tampa Bay Rays come to town. That series will conclude on the 4th of July. In World Cup action, group play is winding down, and we've had our biggest upset so far of the tournament. Defending World Cup champions Germany blanked by South Korea 2-0. They've been booted from the tournament. Sweden defeated Mexico 3-0. Also in Group F play yesterday. Meanwhile, in Group E, Brazil blanked Serbia 2-0, and Costa Rica and Switzerland played to a 2-2 draw. Now, coming up today, we've got 4 games that start at 10 o'clock this morning. Group H, wraps up. Senegal versus Colombia, and Japan will face off against Poland. Then at 2 o'clock, Group G comes to a close. England and Belgium, and Panama versus Tunisia. Then teams will have Friday off as they prepare for the round of 16 play, which begins on Saturday. That's a look at sports here on WSTU.
If you're a man and you're lactose intolerant, why would you ever bring that up to another man? Lactose intolerant. There's not a more annoying group on the planet. Check that, a gluten douche. I made the mistake of picking a restaurant. You can't do that when you go. I went with two guys. I didn't even know them. One was a gluten douche. The other was lactose intolerant. I chose a pizza restaurant. They're each trying to outdo each other. I can't have the bread. My stomach will blow it out to here. The other guy's like, I can't have cheese. I'll have to change my pants. One and up. That's all they're trying. And then out of the shadows, like a ghost, a guy with a nut allergy came over. Yo, the nut allergy is the King Kong of food allergies. Right? He was like, I'm sorry, do you guys got some food problems over here? Can I explain something to you? Let me break it down for you, okay? If I eat a nut, I die. If college kids are driving by on the local highway and one tosses out a peanut shell and the dust from that shell works its way through the air and latches onto a nasal hair and shimmies its way up, I will explode. Okay, nut allergy guy, you win. You win the food allergy competition.
Justice Anthony Kennedy announced he's retiring from the Supreme Court. I never thought I'd say this, but you're only 81.
7:41 here on this Thursday morning, June 28th. On Thursdays at this time, we like to speak with Joe Ketchenbrome from the Stuart Martin County Chamber of Commerce. Good morning, Joe.
Good morning, Michael. How are you?
Doing pretty good so far here on this Thursday morning, and we've got some good news as the state released their report cards for all of the school districts, and once again, Martin County is an A-rated district.
Yeah, that's really great news. You know, it's so important for economic development for your school system to be rated, especially an A. We have experienced that year after year, and I can tell you, the first thing I do when people come in, they've opened new business or they currently moved to the area, and we ask them. Our staff will do the same thing. What brought you to Martin County? And 100% of the times, I know this sounds ridiculous, 100% of the time, it's the school system.
Yeah.
And so when people are talking about moving to a community, especially moving a business here, the first thing they want to know is about the quality of your schools. Not only your school system, but your post-secondary education. And IRSC is a star. You know, they really are. So that's so important for a community.
So,
and second thing they ask about is hospitals and healthcare. In our hospital, you know, we have 3 or 4 very good hospitals in the area. And no one can ever agree. No one's ever 100%. But despite some of the negativity you may hear about local hospitals, they're all rated very well.
Mm-hmm.
So that really helps in economic development and bringing businesses to the community because they bring jobs. And in today's world, most of these business people have kids. So they're interested in the school system.
Yeah, and I don't know anybody in this area, if they have kids or if they are thinking about having kids, every single one of them, when they go to buy a house or go to live somewhere, it's, well, I purposefully picked Martin County because of the schools, or, well, I tried to get into Martin County, I just couldn't afford it. It's one of those two. And across the board, everybody I know, at least with my age range, or people in their 40s, people with young kids, it's they at the very least tried to get into Martin County because of the schools.
Yes, no question about it. And, you know, we've become, over the years, we've become very competitive. I can remember years ago that the cost of living, rental, even the cost of real estate in St. Lucie County was probably 25 or 30% less than ours. Well, it's about even now.
Did it even up?
It's not quite, but from what I understand, and I've not verified this, I've been told that their taxes we're on about an even level with St. Lucie County now. Now I've not verified that. I've not, but I've heard that.
I know that
years.
I was just going to say, I know that the home values in Port St. Lucie have gone up a lot over the past couple of years. I just assumed they kind of did that across the board.
Yeah, probably. But yes, they have increased. And I used to say to someone who wanted to move or locate a business here and say, well, my employees can't afford to live here. We should say, well, you can locate your business here. You can live in Sailfish Point. If you like, your employees can live in Port St. Lucie.
Yeah.
Cost of living is less. Well, I still believe that the values, real estate values, are probably a little bit less in St. Lucie County because first of all, it's diversified, much more diversified in locations and neighborhoods. St. Lucie County runs all the way up to Fort Pierce. So there's more diversification in neighborhoods, where in Martin County, you've got not a whole lot of diversifications. There's many high rent districts, high priced real estate areas, waterfront areas like that, and gated communities. So it's a little difficult to find, I think, bargains like you can in St. Lucie County if you really shopped and you really looked at it. And and today now with choice of schools, you can live in St. Lucie County and your child can go to school in Martin County if there's seating available.
Which, good luck with that.
Yeah, well, but it's still at least a possibility.
It is a possibility, yes.
Yeah.
And you mentioned there's a lot of waterfront property. This happened to me just the other day. I was driving around a road I've been on dozens and dozens of times over the years, and I saw a sign for a boating company, and I went, "What are they? There's no water over here." And I kind of looked up to the side, and sure enough, there a little fork of the river had just sticks down there. I'm like, I had no idea that there was even water over here.
Yeah, there's a lot of communities like that. People don't even realize it, even in Palm City.
Yeah,
and there's a lot of communities like that.
So Martin County, once again, an A-rated district, one of the best districts in the state, and that is good for a lot of different avenues, and especially from the business front. And the other thing that we wanted to speak about this morning, you're going to have to give me a little bit more of the background here, but you were talking about insurance for small business.
Yeah, years ago, I'm going to say at least 10, 12 years ago, and prior to that, there was a company called, United Chambers Health Insurance.
Okay.
And anybody that belonged to a Chamber of Commerce was able to buy into a group, because what they did is they grouped all of the chambers of commerce in the state, and they put them in a big group, and you were able to receive really good health insurance at group rates. And I'm talking about groups starting at 2 people, where, if you have 50, 75, 100 people, you can get Blue Cross Blue Shield or someone to come in and write a health insurance group plan. But under 50, you have no options. So anyway, the United Health, unfortunately, went out of business, because what happened is people who had pre-existing conditions all jumped into the plan, which gives you a great big pool of people who've had pre-existing conditions. And guess what? They're going to be collecting on health insurance more than healthy people like perhaps you and I and others who don't have pre-existing conditions. So it literally bankrupted United Chambers Health Insurance Company. So they did away with it, and it was such a poignant effect on local chambers of commerce. In 3 to 6 months, I don't remember the time frame, we lost 350 members who belonged to the chamber just to be able to get into the health insurance, group insurance plan. So it was devastating. Like I said, we lost 350 members that we could never recuperate. So we've gone on like this, and the problems with getting insurance and the controversial Obamacare and everything else. In fact, last week, the Department of Labor handed down a rule that expands access to association health plans, AHPs, for small business. So under the new rules, small businesses are able to band together and negotiate more affordable health plans. So we're meeting this morning, as a matter of fact, with Kelly Johnson from REV Johnson and a representative of Blue Cross Blue Shield to talk about, they wanted to know, for instance, our membership base includes over 20,000 employees.
Mm-hmm.
So all of our members banded together, that's 20,000 employees that, as a start, could be put into the possibility of a pool to go into healthcare, a group plan. So it's going to be interesting. We're excited about it. It not only helps business development or membership development, but it helps our retention, because if people need to belong to the chamber to continue with their healthcare plan, they're going to continue their membership. So we're excited about it. We think there's a good possibility. Aside from the fact that it's going to offer, there's so many people, as you know, in today's world that hire under 40 hours a week so they don't have to pay benefits. They'll hire somebody to have them work 3 days a week, 4 days a week, and keep them under that. I think it's 30 hours a week, and to keep from having to pay health insurance costs. But if they're able to, at a reduced rate, then they can keep that employee as a full-time employee and afford to give them health insurance. Even if they share the cost, it's still worth the employee's while to go ahead and pay half the cost. The employer's paying half the cost. Yeah, and in a situation like where we are at right now, where I would assume it's considered to be full employment out there, or at the very near close to full employment, with our unemployment numbers as low as they are. It's difficult to necessarily keep employees, or there's so many jobs available out there for people. You have to offer them something a little bit extra, and being able to offer them health insurance through the chamber and all this stuff would be another way for businesses to attract better talent and keep them. No question about it. We were advertising for a salesperson, salary plus commission salesperson. And I think we got about 35 resumes. And of 35, we interviewed 12. And every one of the 12 asked about health care benefits. Every one of them.
Absolutely.
And of course. So it's a dramatic. It could be a dramatic change for all of us, not only the chambers, but the business people and their employees, to be able to offer them something that's affordable. And I don't know for sure, but I would imagine that they studied the model before and realized the fact that they were getting a lot of people, loath people with pre-existing conditions. So I would be interested to see today, when we meet with them, if there's going to be some sort of I don't want to say safeguard, but something pertaining to pre-existing conditions. And even if that were to happen, where they excluded, and I'm not sure they can, I'm just surmising, if they were able to preclude people with pre-existing conditions, it still would be worth an employer's while to get into a group plan where they can save 40 to 50% on a premium, and that's what it would amount to.
Wow. Well, it's definitely exciting stuff, and we look forward to finding out more about it from you in the coming weeks. And if businesses don't want to wait that long and they would just want to call you directly, how can they do that?
Wow. They can call me at 772-287-1088. My extension's 108. They can also go to our website for information on the chamber. Of course, it won't contain any of the insurance information at this point, but our website is www.stuartmartinchamber.org.
Excellent. Joe Katzenbone from the Stuart Martin County Chamber of Commerce. And Joe, enjoy the 4th of July next week.
Thank you.
And
You do the same.
we'll be here on the Thursday if you want to give us a call.
I absolutely will. Look forward to it.
All right. Sounds good. We'll talk to you then.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
Joe Katzenbone from the Stuart Martin County Chamber of Commerce. 7:54 is the time. We've got Treasure Coast News coming up next. If you want to join the program, you can give us a call here at any time at 772-220-9788, 220-WSTU. You're listening to Mike and Bonnie in the morning here on WSTU Stewart. It's 8 o'clock. Let's get the latest from Fox News.
Now, taking a look at traffic, we don't see any accidents to report, including Federal Highway, and the major highways are clear in St. Lucie County and right here in Martin County. If you see traffic this morning, let us know about it. 220-9788, 220-WSTU.
Treasure Coast weather.
And it's 77 in Jensen Beach. Palm City has 77. And let's get more on the forecast at WPTV.
Supreme Court Justice Anthony Kennedy is stepping down.
He came to the White House, so we had a wonderful discussion.
DOJ is greenlighting Disney's $71 billion plan to take over much of 21st Century Fox.
Facebook testing a feature to help film and television buffs avoid spoilers.
Last year, Facebook debuted a snooze option allowing folks to mute posts from a specific friend for 30 days. Reps expanding on this, testing a keyword snooze option to help users block certain words for the same length of time.
The GOP-led House is rejecting an immigration bill that addressed long-term protections for young immigrants brought to the U.S. illegally as children.
Fire crews in California are making headway against a wildfire north of San Francisco.
Federal prosecutors have filed hate crime charges against the driver of a car that fatally struck a protester in Charlottesville, Virginia last year.
At the World Cup, the defending champs are out. Germany losing in a big upset to Korea, which also got knocked out.
Justices voted 5-4 to reverse a 41-year-old ruling that had allowed states to require public workers to pay some dues to unions that represent them in collective bargaining.
The Dow was down 165 points.
Well, today is June 28th, which makes it National Tapioca Day. We've been on a pudding kick lately, Bonnie.
Yeah, it seems like there's a lot of pudding days in June.
Yeah, which chocolate pudding in June? Get it. Tapioca Day. When I don't know what you would use tapioca in besides pudding. Can you think of anything?
No.
Yeah. All right. So I'm just thinking tapioca pudding. But Indian pudding day is kind of more like a Thanksgiving type of thing. I don't understand why we're doing that in the middle of summer.
Yeah, we just had like Indian pudding day, just like was it yesterday or the day
that's what I'm saying. I
before?
don't understand why it was yesterday. Why wasn't it closer to Thanksgiving?
Some of these just don't make sense, and on Thanksgiving we'll probably have our National Picnic Day.
Yeah, exactly, or something stupid.
Which should be
Strawberry Pie Day.
Yeah, which you like your strawberry pie in summertime, and it's only natural something like Indian pudding should be in the fall. That should be where it is placed. So I don't know what food guru is coming up with these national food days lately. And pudding for 3 days in June. Man, somebody really likes their pudding lately.
Yeah, exactly. Well, in other food news, looks like McDonald's is stealing an idea from Seinfeld. They're now selling muffin tops for breakfast.
I can't believe somebody pulled the top off this muffin.
That was me. I'm sorry. I don't like the stumps.
So you just eat the tops?
Oh yeah, it's the best part. It's crunchy. It's explosive. It's where the muffin breaks free of the pan and sort of does its own thing. I'll tell you, that's $1 million idea right there. Just sell the tops.
Well, McDonald's is hoping it's $1 million idea because they're scrambling around. They need that $1 million idea. And hey, if a fast food chain needs a hot idea from a 21-year-old sitcom, then so be it, because muffin tops are by far the best part of the muffin.
Do you think so?
Oh, if I'm sharing a muffin with somebody,
Mm-hmm.
my instinct is to eat the muffin top first, and then the rest of it can get thrown out, basically.
That's odd because it's all the same through and through.
No, it's not. The top is different. The top is different from the bottom. It's got a little bit more of a crust to it. Sometimes they put sugar on the top, so it's a little bit better up there.
Oh, maybe so. But it's kind of like weird because it seems to me like it would be like Dunkin' Donuts just selling the donut holes.
They
aside
do
from
just sell the
donuts.
donut holes.
Do they?
Yes.
Oh.
And they're a big thing.
I haven't been there
They're a
in a
big
very
product.
while.
It's only been around for 20 years. No big deal. Yes, they say that muffin tops could be hitting McDonald's stores around the country very soon. They'll come in 3 flavors. There's lemon poppy seed, blueberry, and double chocolate. I'm all in for those. I'll try at least a little bit of them.
What do they do with the rest of the muffin then? Isn't that a little bit wasteful?
I don't know. Maybe they give them to a homeless shelter or something like that. I don't know.
I would hope they give them to somebody because somebody would be hungry for it. That's wasteful.
I didn't even mean. Apparently, that's exactly what they do in the Seinfeld episode. Is they take the muffin stumps and leave them for the homeless to eat.
Oh,
So,
that's good then.
yeah. So maybe McDonald's can follow suit with that.
They probably will.
Meanwhile, Burger King is teaming up with Budweiser for a brand new burger, but the meat's not going to be marinated in Budweiser beer or anything like that. And Burger King stores aren't suddenly going to start selling beer. So not sure how this is a collaboration, but apparently Burger King is redoing the old Budweiser "What's Up" ads. Remember that?
Oh, sort of.
People would call up their buddy and be like, "What's up? What's up?" And it was just everybody was doing that nonstop for about a decade.
It drove you crazy.
It did. But they are redoing the Budweiser "What's Up" ads in honor of this burger collaboration. They made special Burger King cardboard crowns that can hold a can of beer, and they have a straw attached. And the burger is called the American Brewhouse King. It's a double cheeseburger with bacon and crispy onions. So I guess the idea is you buy one, drive to a store, buy some beer, go home and eat.
Yeah, and you're not getting the beer actually from Burger King.
No, they're not buying a beer license.
But they give you the crown to where you can hold your beer in like a beer holder, but
Yes.
without the beer. But,
Correct.
yeah.
It's a weird collaboration.
It
It's
kind
not
of-
it's not one that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, if they did get a beer license, that might seriously work because I'm sure many people would like to enjoy a Whopper with an ice cold beer.
I don't know. Those licenses are not cheap.
I bet not.
And I don't know if Burger King is going to be able to hit that with their bottom line. But I'm sure somewhere along the lines they've thought about it.
Mm-hmm.
You know? I'm sure.
Well, now they have to compete with IHOB too, so I'm sure all
Oh,
these
yeah.
places are coming out with these new promotions.
I'm sure everybody is shaking in their boots at the idea that IHOB is now serving burgers. They've been doing it for 40 years, 30 years. I don't know.
That's strange. I wonder how long IHOB will be around before it turns back into IHOP. Probably
They said it was
pretty-
only a couple of 30 days.
Yeah, it'll probably be right around the corner that
Yeah.
they'll go back to their old one, IHOP.
Police are looking for a guy in Atlanta area. He's a 62-year-old guy named William Backus. He called 911 at least 118 times over the past 3 years with exactly 0 real emergencies. One time he called and asked them to bring him a glass of milk.
Talk about being wasteful. You know, that's a waste of these 911 callers' time and personnel that has to go out to his residence for a glass of milk.
One time it was because he couldn't find his cell phone, so he called 911. One time it was because he lost his TV remote. Obviously, something's wrong with the guy, unfortunately.
Could
but
you
the cops or the
imagine?
fire department have gone to his house every single time, and he never answers the door. I don't understand how they let it go on so long,
They're
but they
gluttons for
finally
punishment.
put out a warrant for his arrest for abusing the 911 system. And oddly enough, now he's refusing to get in touch with them.
Could you imagine, seriously, how many times a week do you lose your cell phone or do you lose the remote control and you're yelling and screaming about it? Where did I put that remote? Where's my phone? Could you imagine abusing the 911 system every time you lost it?
I don't know. And I don't know much about the case. Maybe this is a guy who's just trying to prank call the 911 system and finds humor in it, or is trying to protest the government for some reason. Maybe he's doing this on purpose, but odds are, to me, my guess is something's probably wrong with him and there's something going on, and that's causing him to call 911.
He must be not getting very much attention at home.
I don't know.
He sounds like he's a little bit lonely and vying for the attention.
I think something's wrong upstairs for you to call 911 118 times.
Yeah.
Asking for a glass of milk. Okay, 911, what's your emergency? Yeah, I'm having trouble falling asleep. Could you please bring a glass of warm milk up to the study? Thanks. Click. I don't think that's a normal person making that phone call.
You'd be more apt to call 911 if you spilled your glass of milk and you splattered glass all over the floor and maybe your baby's stepping in the glass or something.
That took a turn.
I know. I'm just saying, trying to think for a better. I'm getting desperate. There's got to be
like it was low. It wasn't that great. Oh, a baby stepping in glass. What happened here?
There's got to be better usages for 911 when you call.
I think so. 8:17 is the time this morning. We've got Treasure Coast News coming up next. Someone wants to warn people in Stewart about the dangers of swimming in the St. Lucie River with blue-green algae floating around, so they posted signs near the Riverwalk that read, "Danger, Lake-O discharges, swim at your own risk." The only problem is it's illegal to post your own signs on public property, and the city of Stewart has taken them down, even though they don't have any official signs posted warning people about the algae. WPTV's Amy Lippman reports.
This morning, we found bright green algae here at Shepherd Park in Stewart. You can see some of that in this water bottle right here, and it is also still visible along the shoreline there. But what you will not find around Shepherd Park are any official signs saying not to swim in the water right now. But the city tells me something like that is coming.
We're all tired.
Fresh off the plane from a trip to Washington, D.C.
I went with my daughter and a bunch of the river kids.
Kenny Hinkle.
I love my county.
Isn't stopping.
We need to assume that the water is toxic.
He says he wasn't the activist behind these homemade warning signs, but he's applauding whoever is.
We're calling it the Toxic Avenger right now. We don't know who it is, but I think it's great that somebody's actually taken the initiative to put signs out there to save people's lives.
Because algae is out there in the St. Lucie River right now. We found this green water this morning at Shepherd Park with no official warning signs nearby.
That citizens are actually taking it upon themselves to put these signs out there.
The city of Stewart has been working with the health department on coming up with official signs. About a dozen of them should be up by the end of the week.
With algae, it does move around, and until it got to the height that it did 2 years ago, where almost the entire river was unsafe to go in, you really want to pay attention to that, because we want people to be able to still enjoy the water and go in it, but we also want to be accurate and let them know when it is actually unsafe in a particular area.
Signs or no signs, Hinkle says he's not going in.
It's a known toxin. It's known to cause liver disease, cancer clusters, and neurological disorders as well.
I'm told the city of Stewart put up its own signs during the algae crisis 2 years ago, but they really want their messaging to be in sync with the health department. So it's taken some time to get some approval from the health department on exactly what to post. Amy Lippman, WPTV, News Channel 5.
A different battle over water has been playing out for years. Georgia has been using so much of the water that used to flow into the Apalachicola Bay that the famed oyster industry has been decimated, and Florida Agriculture Commissioner Adam Putnam says it has to be saved.
We're fighting at every front, fighting on a scientific level, fighting on a litigation level in terms of taking it all the way to the U.S. Supreme Court, working with the oystermen themselves to try to design all kinds of ways for us to continue to bring that bay back.
Well, the U.S. Supreme Court sided with Florida in the latest legal challenge, sending the case back to a special master who had ruled in favor of Georgia. But there's still no end in sight to a legal battle that's been going on for decades. Florida has issued its annual school report card, though with little fanfare. The news is good overall. The report card showed that public schools scored better grades this year than the year before. More schools with an A or a B grade, fewer schools with an F. 58% of the schools counted had A's and B's, while only 7% scored an F. The school report card is based on how well students do overall on standardized tests in reading, math, social studies, and science. More than 3,000 schools in Florida were graded for this year. Locally, schools on the Treasure Coast improved their grades overall. There were no F schools and only 3 D schools. Martin County was an A-rated district, ranking 15th in the state. St. Lucie County, a B-rated district, ranked 22nd in the state. The PBS show Nova focused on hurricanes last night. More specifically, last year's trio of big storms, Harvey, Irma, and Maria. Show producer Liesl Clark says the 3 hurricanes all encountered warm water temperatures and no wind shear.
Well, they all rapidly intensified, meaning that they gained wind strength very, very quickly. And that's a part of atmospheric science that scientists are looking very closely at, that the forecasters feel that they really need to improve on that particular aspect of hurricane predictions.
Last night's Nova show was titled Rise of the Superstorms. A jury late Wednesday found a Port St. Lucie man guilty of trying to kill another man outside of a Port St. Lucie bar by setting him on fire. Ivan Rodriguez was found guilty as charged. The most serious charge was attempted first-degree murder with a weapon, and it carries a life sentence. Rodriguez had an encounter at Neely's Grog House in Port St. Lucie back in April of 2015. Rodriguez tossed a cup full of gasoline on a man and then set him on fire. The man suffered serious burns and had to undergo a number of surgeries, spending a month in a Miami hospital. New car entertainment systems are too distracting for drivers. That's what research from AAA's Foundation for Traffic Safety says.
What we're seeing right now are touch screens, heads-up displays, gesture controls, and voice controls that are just, in many cases, too distracting.
The Foundation's Dr. David Strayer says they found smartphone-based apps like Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, which are actually safer than the car makers' built-in systems. Strayer says you can make systems even safer by locking out navigation and texting functions while the car is in motion. That's a look at our Treasure Coast news here this morning. The time is 8:25, which means it's time for our Precious Metals Report, brought to us by St. Lucie Jewelry and Coin. Gold's opening up this morning at $1,251 an ounce. Silver's opening at $16 an ounce. The Precious Metals Report brought to us by St. Lucie Jewelry and Coin.
And it has been a good-looking Thursday morning to be out on the roads. We still don't see any accidents to report throughout Martin County and St. Lucie County. Looking clear right now. And call us if you see traffic at 220-9788, 220-WSTU.
Treasure Coast weather.
Stuart, we have 79, and WPTV weather brought to us by Code Red Roofers. Roofers who respond. Code Red Roofers cares, calls you back, shows up, and finishes on time. Call 287-2829. And now from WPTV, here's Glenn Glacier.
Portions of Mike and Bonnie in the morning are brought to us by Ellie's Downtown Deli and Catering. Great place to go for lunch here on the Treasure Coast.
Nice day to stop in and enjoy a snack at Ellie's Deli. You can get some fresh potato salad, get some coleslaw today. Of course, Mark is preparing those fresh jumbo wraps for you. You can get the Reuben wrap. It's like having a Reuben sandwich in a fresh jumbo wrap. And call Mark at Ellie's Deli today. They're going to deliver for free in the Stuart area. And if you stop by, you can get your beverages like a wine or a beer while you're dining at Ellie's Deli in Stuart.
Yeah, Ellie's Downtown Deli and Catering. They've also got some big plans going on for the 4th of July. So if you're still trying to figure out what to do on the big day next Wednesday, well, spend it with Chef Mark Mahler and the staff of Ellie's Downtown Deli and Catering. They're going to be partnering up with the Harborage Yacht Club and Marina from 6 to 10 o'clock on July 4th. You can go there for a buffet and the fireworks show. They're going to be set up on the second floor, so you're going to have a great view of the river. The buffet is going to have everything from a mashed potato bar to a slider bar to ribs. There's going to be liquor. There's going to be all kinds of other stuff there, full service bar as well. So you are not going to be disappointed if you decide to spend your July 4th holiday with Chef Mark Mahler and Ellie's Downtown Deli. To get more information, check them out on Facebook, facebook.com/Ellie's Downtown Deli. Or you can give them a call at 772-781-6605 or stop on into the restaurant at 18 Southeast 6th Street. Tell them you heard about it from Mike and Bonnie in the morning. Space, the final frontier with Randy Siegel and the Space Report here on WSTU. Good morning, Randy.
Good morning to you, sir. Well, the astronauts on the International Space Station are itching for a visit, and they're going to get that visit by the 15th launch of a resupply mission using a Dragon spacecraft. Both the rocket, the first stage, and the Dragon are reused vehicles. They will not attempt to recover the first stage because it's an older version engine that they're using, and it's only designed for a couple of flights. This will be its second flight. However, that launch is scheduled to take place tomorrow morning at 5:42 a.m. before sunrise from Cape Canaveral's Pad 40. It should be a gorgeous launch. The weather gods appear to be favorable and saying, okay, SpaceX, we're ready for you to have that launch. The astronauts on board the space station are anxious to get some of the goodies that are on board. Not only will they get some fresh fruit and some other surprises from Earth, they'll be getting some science experiments that will benefit everybody on Earth eventually. One of the experiments is to improve cancer therapies and also to benefit cement processing in Earth orbit. Currently, the astronauts on board the station are getting ready to handle the new payload. Serena Unan Chandler is preparing for the Annex cancer therapy experiment, which will be delivered aboard that Dragon spacecraft. She's setting up a microgravity science glove box for the study that may lead to safer, more effective vascular targeting drugs without animal testing. Flight engineer Rick Arnold mixed cement samples for stowage and future analysis on Earth. They want to study how cement reacts in space during the hardening process, which may help engineers better understand its microstructure and material properties. Observations could improve cement processing techniques on Earth and lead to the design of safer, lightweight space habitats. So a lot of work is going on the station. But remember, if you wake up early tomorrow morning, 5:42, and it should be a gorgeous launch. The Dragon will rendezvous with the International Space Station on Monday at about 9 o'clock in the morning. The House Science, Space, and Technology Committee has been doing a lot of work with space. Yesterday, they approved a space technology and commercial space bill. The idea is that they want to have the Commerce Department handle anything having to do with space. They believe that having the Commerce Department as the central place for it to be done will make it a whole lot easier for companies to participate. Representative Bill Posey says companies would like to utilize space support vehicles to train crews and spaceflight participants by exposing them to the psychological effects encountered in spaceflight or conduct research in reduced gravity environments. The legislation creates a foundation for more companies to engage in human spaceflight activity and support commercial space operations. I would like to thank Chairman Lamar Smith and Subcommittee Chairman Brian Babin, as well as his Florida colleague, Representative Al Lawson, for their support on this bipartisan bill in space. So with the passage of these bills, hopefully the Senate will then take up the mantle and they will accept these bills as part of a Senate bill in Congress. Currently, the Senate has not acted on these bills, and the hope is that they will in the not-too-distant future, because it will make space a whole lot safer, and it will open up a lot more space industry for the state of Florida. Analyzing space data takes a long time. So much is sent down in a short period that it takes a while for NASA and the research departments, as well as for other industry, to understand what they're seeing with all the data. Well, data from NASA's Cassini spacecraft revealed a complex organic molecules originating from Saturn's icy moon Enceladus, strengthening the idea that this ocean world hosts conditions suitable for life. Research results show a much larger, heavier molecule than ever before. How do they know? Well, because Enceladus vents a lot of these materials into space, and the Cassini spacecraft went through some of these vents, and as a result, they were able to analyze the compounds of it. On Enceladus, bubbling gas rises through miles of ocean, and it could bring up organic material from the depths, where they would form a thin film floating on an ocean surface and in cracks around the vents. It could be an ideal location for potentially having foreign bodies on another moon of Saturn. SpaceX is getting ready to bring out its crewed Dragon spacecraft. Currently, it is testing a full-up model of the spacecraft at NASA's Plum Brook Station, which is in Cleveland. They believe that this testing, which is the only place that it can be tested to simulate space activity, is the right time and the right place to have this done as they prepare for launches later this year. First, an unmanned launch that will take it to the International Space Station, followed by a manned launch to the International Space Station before the end of the year. The hope by SpaceX and by the Boeing company is that their crewed modules will fly this year, and shortly the U.S. will not be dependent on the Russians for space activity. Once again, NASA has announced another delay in the launch of the James Webb Space Telescope. Yep, the flagship has now been pushed back to no earlier than late March 2021. As a result, it will break the cost cap that was set by Congress. And now NASA will have to submit to Congress for a waiver, allowing them to continue with this project. It was aiming for a launch of the telescope on March 30th, 2021, nearly a year later than the May 2020 date that they had originally given 3 months ago. The date came after a delay was announced last September, moving the launch from October 2018 to the spring of 2019. So it appears that more money keeps pouring into the James Webb Telescope, as great as it is, and as great as the information it will give us. The cost of James Webb have been ballooning way above anything that they thought it would be, not to mention the delays in the launch of that vehicle. It has now been 50 years since NASA commissioned the Fisher Pen Company to come up with a pen that astronauts could use in space, that it could write upside down, it could write sideways, it could write underwater. It was a great invention for this Fisher Pen Company, and they succeeded. And the Fisher Space Pen has been used by virtually every astronaut on a manned flight for the last 50 years. They continue to produce these pens, and they're used by not only American astronauts, but they're used by Russian astronauts. Originally, the Fisher Space Pen was a great idea for America so we could have writing implements in space. But before that was invented, the Russians used a rather unique way of writing in space. They used a pencil, and in some cases continue. Tomorrow we're going to tell you about Virgin Orbit and Cosmic Girl working together, as well as the United Arab Emirates heading into space. So until tomorrow, have a great day, everybody.
Randy Siegel with the Space Report here on WSTU. We'll go ahead and take a break. We'll be back with more of Mike and Bonnie in the morning.
Bought a new pair of sneakers the other day. I think I got a good price. I put $50 down, and I'm paying $5 a month for 60 months. I need to make some money. I've been reading these books. You know how the millionaires write books, and they all say the same thing. They say making that first million is the toughest. Yeah, I'm finding that to be the case. I hope the second million isn't this tough. In fact, I'm having a little trouble with the 1,000 barrier. The money I do have is all tied up in Pokemon cards. Yeah, I had to sell some Beanie Babies to get the Pokemon cards, but I wanted to diversify my portfolio.
Urban Outfitters and Anthropologie are rolling out a new payment program which allows online shoppers to pay in installments later rather than in full, called Afterpay. Not to be confused with the program they have at Taco Bell, where you always pay for it later. Mitt Romney won last night's Utah Republican Senate primary. Romney celebrated by going to a victory party and turning the music down.
Big news out of Washington. Supreme Court Justice Anthony Kennedy announced he's retiring, which means President Trump will pick his replacement. When asked which judge he'll choose, Trump said, either Adam Levine or Blake Shelton. They're both a little edgy for different reasons.
We haven't talked about this yet this morning, but Joe Jackson, the patriarch of the Jackson family, passed away yesterday. Father of Michael Jackson, Janet Jackson. He died yesterday after a battle with cancer at the age of 89 years old. I actually thought he died a long time ago.
I did too.
Everybody I've talked to thought that. Okay, so it wasn't just me. Because I was talking about it last night at the bar when we were doing trivia, and people were like, "Did you hear Joe Jackson died?" And I was like, "Yeah, I thought he died like 15, 20 years ago."
I sure did. And I didn't think he would have been, already 89. He was really up there in years. But yeah, I thought he had already passed too, like years ago.
Yeah, and it's a weird thing where the father of a super talented family, I mean, whether you like the individuals or not, I mean, Michael Jackson was a weird enough guy, and there were a lot of question marks around him as a person, but you can't deny that the music was phenomenal, and he was an amazing performer and an amazing entertainer. And Joe Jackson made his children into international superstars, put them on top of the world, and there's claims of abuse, and it's like, could he be abusive and make his children international superstars? I guess the answer is yes. Of course he can. One of his daughters, LaToya, I guess LaToya Jackson's one of his daughters.
Yes, LaToya would be, I think, one of the oldest daughters. I know she's much older than like Janet.
Janet was super young compared to the rest of them.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, she was like the baby, I think.
Although, isn't she up in her 50s now?
Uh-huh. She is getting up there, too. And Janet Jackson just had a little baby, too, not too long ago at like 54 or something like that.
So LaToya said, "You gave us strength. You made us one of the most famous families in the world. I'm extremely appreciative of that." Michael Jackson's son, Prince, said, quote, "This man is and always will be an example of sheer willpower and dedication. He didn't choose the path that was the easiest, but he chose the path that was the best for his family." The executors of Michael Jackson's estate noted that Joe is recognized by the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame as the best entertainment manager of all time, and he was inducted into the Rhythm and Blues Hall of Fame in 2014. Of course, Michael talked a lot when he was alive about how horrible the abuse was and didn't mention his dad in his will. So a little bit of, bad blood there.
A little bit of rockiness there, yes.
Yeah. But yeah, Joe Jackson passing away yesterday at the age of 89 years old after his bout with cancer.
I've driven through like Gary, Indiana, where the Jacksons grew up, I believe, a small town just maybe about an hour or so south of Chicago, Illinois.
Okay.
So they grew up in that area. And I think they went through a claim, too, where I'm pretty sure like some neighbors in Gary, Indiana, had a lawsuit one time out against the Jacksons about some sort of song that the Jacksons did. And the neighbors in Gary were claiming that they actually wrote the song.
It seems that every musician who has reached a certain level is accused by somebody of stealing their music.
Yeah.
I have a hard time. I don't get too worked up over it unless you listen to it and you're like, that is identical. Sometimes they're identical, but a lot of times you listen to the two and you're like, no, that is not. No, sorry. I guess you shouldn't talk too openly about your song at the time. Bruno Mars has just recently been accused of stealing. No, was it Bruno Mars? No, it was Glover. It was I don't know if it's Donald Glover, but Childish Gambino is his rapper name. And one of his big new songs, I guess he's accused of stealing from another rapper, and they claim to say that they have proof that they wrote it years before the other song ever came out, blah, 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 blah. It's weird.
Well, Taylor Swift just stole the song from Earth, Wind, and Fire.
Well, she covered it. She didn't steal it.
I know.
She murdered it.
Murdered it, yeah.
It was a crime against humanity, her version of it.
That's a crime in itself. That is true.
Yeah. Did you ever purchase a smart speaker like an Amazon Alexa or a Google Home?
I haven't yet. I'm inclined to do so. Maybe someday I'll get brave enough to do it. I'm still going to be afraid that he or she, I think it's a she, Alexa, would be spying on me.
They're more and more popular, and people apparently have some big dreams about how they can improve their lives, and I don't understand how they got to this point. It's a smart speaker. It can do a lot of things, but largely it's a clock radio on steroids. It'll tell you the time. It'll tell you the weather. It'll tell you all this stuff. Your phone does a lot of it too. It's just these smart speakers were really good at playing music.
Mm-hmm.
But according to a new survey, they asked people what they wish their smart speaker could do. And it seems like they don't want a smart speaker. They want a magic speaker. The top answers from the survey was they want their Amazon Alexas and their Google Home to help them learn a foreign language.
Oh, I would rather have Alexa maybe sweep my floors or something while I'm gone and put away my dishes.
They want Alexa to help make us funnier, to help make us more attractive somehow, to help distract our kids, which they do, and finally, to give dating advice. Who buys a Google Home thinking that it's going to help them be better on dates? How does that work? What does that look like?
And how is a computer or a speaker device like this going to be better than the help of your mom or older sister to give you, tips about going out on dates and what you should do?
I don't even know where they get the idea that Alexa is going to give them dating advice or make them funny or make them more attractive. I don't see that in any of the ads for the device. What we actually use them for is things that I've seen in the ads. Playing music, getting the weather, getting the news, help with basic cooking tasks, giving us travel updates, things like that.
The most convenient one for me would be like right before I go to sleep. Like if I can't find my cell phone and I'm so tired and I'm getting lazy about setting my clock alarm on my cell phone, I think all I would have to do is say, Alexa, I would like to wake up at 4:11 a.m. And then she'd probably set my alarm for me just by me saying it. I think that would be pretty cool.
You could do that on your phone right now.
Yeah.
And when I say help with basic cooking tasks, I don't mean like it's actually boiling an egg for you, but if you don't know how to do it, you could say, Alexa, how do I boil an egg? And it'll give you the step-by-step directions on how to do certain things like that.
See, now that's taking out the human form of it too, because like when I don't know how to cook something, I will get on the phone and call my mother. So, she's
That's
right
so
there.
last generation.
I don't know why if it's last generation, then we're losing communicating with other human beings.
Come on. Just because people aren't picking up their phone to call their mother to find out how to boil an egg doesn't mean that we're learning or losing the ability to communicate.
Yeah, because for some people, they don't want to call their mother anyway. And then at least if they need something from their mom, at least she's not so lonely and she's getting a call. Hello. I mean, hi, Mom.
Come on.
At least she should be getting...
Your mom's just sitting there with nothing to do, waiting for you to call her and find out how to boil an egg.
That's right. She's like, don't ask Alexa. Call me once in a while. The moms can get lonely. if they're, over at their bachelor mom pad.
Well, that's why they didn't teach you how to boil an egg when you were young, because they knew they were going to be lonely someday and they needed that personal touch.
Yeah.
You calling them. 8:53 is the time here this morning. We've got Treasure Coast News coming up next. Taking a look at our Treasure Coast News this morning, the Port St. Lucie City Council has okayed the sale of the former Vaccine and Gene Therapy Institute building. The council unanimously voted yesterday to approve a letter of intent for RER Ventures LLC to buy the VGTI building, now known as the Florida Center for Biosciences. WPTV's John Shaman has more.
RER Ventures, which has a South Florida tie, is offering $14.5 million for the research lab, and that is the building's last appraised value. I went out to the Tradition facility, and you can see all of the lettering has been taken down from that building. Now, there was a lot of promise when VGTI announced that it was coming to the area back in 2010. The city borrowed $64 million to develop the building. So even a sale will result in about a $50 million loss. VGTI shut down in 2015. There was a lot of bad blood between the institution and the city. VGTI claimed the lack of a university affiliation and loss of funding from the National Institutes of Health behind their closing. The city took over the facility, and the city manager telling me he sees this potential sale as a way to fulfill the initial promise of the Tradition area as a jobs corridor.
You look at the development that's occurred around the Tradition healthcare facility. You look at what will happen, when this building is reoccupied. It's often not that the dream is not reachable, it's the timing.
Blackburn says he was initially told RER wants to use some of the building for bioscience research. Some of those activities could be tax exempt. Now, the city has shed itself of some failed business ventures in recent years. You may recall that the city sold the former Digital Domain headquarters, that animation studio, to Christ Fellowship for $13 million back in 2015. John Shaman, WPTV, News Channel 5.
A man seen riding his bike, holding a fishing pole, and wearing flip-flops is wanted by the Martin County Sheriff's Office for attempting to steal an outboard motor from a boat at the Treasure Coast Rowing Club in Palm City early Sunday morning. On surveillance video, you see the man ride up and climb through a small opening on the side of the fence and make his way into the boatyard. Once inside, he takes a Yamaha motor worth about $2,000 off the boat. The suspect loosens the 150-pound motor from the boat, but then realizes that he has a problem. He can't get it over the 15-foot fence. So he puts the motor down and calls it a night. Officials believe the suspect is local to the Martin County area because he was on his bike. Anyone with information is asked to call the sheriff's office. A Port St. Lucie woman has been reunited with her mother after 80 years. Joanne Lowenstern was adopted as a baby and lived her entire life never knowing her biological mother until this week. Joanne was told at 16 years old that she was adopted and that her mother had died 2 days after she gave birth. But even if she was dead, Joanne wanted to learn more about her mother and her family. So her daughter-in-law decided to take a chance and created an Ancestry.com account about a year ago. That led to the discovery that Joanne's mother was not only alive, but living right down the road in Boca Raton. Joanne and her 100-year-old mother, Lillian Simonieri, finally reunited. But one mystery still remains. Why was Joanne told that her mother had died? Lillian's memories of 1938 are fading, but she says that she lost a daughter that year who died. Joanne and Lillian say they plan to make the most out of the remaining time that they have together. If you're interested in a career in law enforcement, today's your lucky day. The Martin County Sheriff's Office is holding a career fair. Several positions are open, including law enforcement deputies, corrections deputies, aviation deputies, 911 dispatchers, and more. The career fair is this afternoon from 3 to 7 p.m. at the Indian River State College Chastain campus in Stewart. That's your Treasure Coast news. Let's get one last look at traffic with Bonnie.
And it's still a good-looking morning on the road, so if you're heading out, you should have a nice ride on your way to work. We haven't seen any accidents to report for you this morning. Hopefully it stays that way. Drive safely. And there's your latest look at traffic.
And that's going to do it for us here on this Thursday morning. Bonnie, have a great day.
You have a great day, too. Enjoy the lovely weather this morning.
It's WSTU Stewart.